Hello boys and girls, it was El Clasico, so as Guillem is going to be dedicated most to it, I've got your questions, but first let me give you an overview. Real Madrid started well, but then the last half an hour of the first half, Barcelona seemed to control and understood what Real Madrid were trying to do, and they created their own chances, didn't take advantage of it, and in the second half, two things happened in my eyes. One, Real Madrid organized themselves much better, sometimes with a line of six, because Valverde and on the other side Vinicius used the full-back positions to make sure that the full-backs of Barcelona didn't attack them. They did that very well. They had a lot of men around Messi too, and the pressure high when they did that, it worked. And in fact, there was a moment where in that pressure high, they stole a ball to Barcelona, ended up in a corner. That corner, there was a header from Isco, and Piqué saved it from the goal line. Emotionally, this is the beginning of the second half, the whole thing changed. The roar of the Santiago Bernabeu just kind of connected with the players and they started playing better. Second thing, Quique Setién gave the game to Real Madrid when he replaced a midfielder, Arturo Vidal, who deserved to be replaced, but didn't put a midfielder instead, put Braithwaite, striker. Had a chance straight away, but didn't defend the next action, which was the goal of Vinicius. Braithwaite was one of the players to blame because he's not a midfielder. He doesn't think defensively. And the midfield of Real Madrid dominated from then on. Those were, to me, the keys of that Clasico. Marge is asking, how does El Clasico compare to, say, the last 10 ones? Is it better or worse? I do have the impression that we were in paradise with the Clasico about 10 years ago, between 2008 and 2012-13. And we are comparing every Clasico to that. Before that, there were also Clásicos, and they weren't great, not all of them. I think the suggestion here is that the quality of the Clasico has diminished, and yes, compared to the last 10 years, for sure. There is not many players that are match winners. It is that time, that period that Barcelona and Real Madrid are going through, transition, end of an era in both cases, and of course El Clasico suffers. Rebel with a Cause says, at this point, who do you see as the future star of Clásicos? Are they already in the respective squads or will they be bought in? Mbappé. And maybe Neymar. Neymar for Barcelona, Mbappé for Real Madrid. Those are the two that they want to get. And if, of course, they come in, they will be the stars of the Clasico. Right, from Market Bold, he says, here's my question, are Barcelona players required to pass to Messi or are they all incapable of doing things themselves? That's interesting. I discussed that in La Liga TV with Terry Gibson last night because he's of the opinion that it looks like they're forced to pass it to Messi. Messi doesn't want the ball passed to him just because it's Messi, but he wants the ball passed to him at the point where he makes his move because he thinks he can score easier than others. So players have to take responsibility of when to do that. Messi's not forcing them, but yes, players, when they don't see solutions, give it to Messi. And often, more often than not in recent times, that is not a solution. Cosmos is asking thoughts on Real's defense in the second half, especially with the likes of Casemiro, Marcelo and Varane. It was interesting to see Marcelo beating Messi on a run. It was interesting to see Marcelo defending decently in this occasion, but it was helped by that idea that I told you earlier, in which Valverde and Vinicius drop very deep in a line of six sometimes, defending against the runs of the full-backs that had no space for it, and of course with the midfielders not getting into the box in the way they had done in the first half, Arturo Vidal and De Jong especially, and later on Rakitic, it was easy to defend. So they did really well, Real Madrid, and Barcelona just could not have an answer to that. Rohit Sureshesh, he says, have Madrid found a gem in Valverde? It's been going on for the whole season. He has been the best player of Real Madrid, but it was interesting what they did with him yesterday in the Clasico. They played him on the right-hand side of the attack, with Carvajal coming inside a lot of the times. So Valverde will attack wide, and Casemiro, again, Carvajal will be just feeding him the balls. And that's because when they were tracking back defensively, Carvajal had the obligation to be more inside, almost like a third centre-back. And as I said, Valverde, if he saw Alba going attacking, Valverde will just drop deep. So you can do whatever you want with Valverde. You can use any part of the pitch for sure. Mark Forster, do you see Modric and Rakitic leaving their clubs this summer, and where will they end up? Modric and Rakitic, the club want them to go. For Modric, that's the end of it. They renewed the contract of Kroos, not of Modric. Rakitic, well, for a while now, Barcelona have wanted him to go to release the funds of his wages for somebody else. I think Rakitic finally got the message, and I think this will be his last summer. Nor Admat, he says, why Real Madrid changed so much in the second half? It was like a complete different team. And do you think Mariano deserves to be given more minutes ahead of Jovic? On the first part, I already answered. On the second one, yes, Mariano deserves the minutes. It was his first ball, the first ball that he touched on that throw-in where he beat Umtiti, the run of Umtiti, and Semedo, for some reason, didn't actually go and kind of run on his way, stop his run. Instead, allowed him to get close to Ter Stegen, and that was the goal. Mariano, who Real Madrid wanted him to go, basically decided to stay on for minutes like this, for a moment like this, and hopes to convince Real Madrid. Jovic, as soon as he arrived, within the month of he arriving, Zidane asked the club to let him go on loan, even though he cost 60 million euros. They don't see a place for him as long as Benzema is there. Mariano does deserve more minutes. So that was El Clasico, that was Ask Guillem this week, and I'll be talking to all of you next week. Bye-bye.